Welcome to the North vs. South podcast, where we discuss gaming, technology, films, and TV. In this episode, we talk about the latest Spider-Man film, No Way Home. Please expect major spoilers for this and all Spider-Man films, including the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield series. So Josh, you finally watched the latest Spider-Man. The thing is, I always forget what the actual title is because all three of these films have got home in the title. So I always get confused. I don't know if you get confused as well.
Yeah, well, if you listen back to the intro to this podcast, which I have yet to record, you'll know what the Spider-Man film's called. This is Spider-Man No Way Home.
No Way Home.
There is no way to go.
You got Far From Home. You got long.
It was Homecoming, Far From Home, and now No Way Home. So what does that title mean?
So it means that he can't go back to what he had previously. So he's totally changed. So the idea is that because he's
the flat gets destroyed.
No, he's had to get Doctor Strange to create the spell in which he can't. No one can remember he's actually Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, sure. It's multi-pronged, though, isn't it? Because it's like, it means different things at different points in the movie. So at first, he becomes super famous, and, actually, nothing happens to the flat, but they know where he is. So they kind of they're exiled from that flat. They're having to move into Happy's flat. And then later on, No Way Home kind of means something else when, again, spoiler, and we'll probably talk about it later, but when Aunt May dies, it's more of a spiritual thing, no way home, as in you can't go home because, she's not there. And then later on, we've got all these interdimensional, not later on, but concurrently, we've got all these people who are kind of been brought into this universe from their own universe, and it's trying to work out how are they going to get home. Are they going to get home? Should they go home? To a certain extent, Happy tries to go home, but he can't go home because his apartment building gets kind of destroyed in that fight. And then, obviously, it kind of does come back round where no one knows who Spider-Man is. Aunt May is dead, and Spider-Man is kind of in that kind of terrible flat, reminiscent of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And he is home, but he's kind of... It's not really his home, or at least not yet. Is it a good title, do you think?
Well, I think they just did it so they included the name Home, so it's like every film in the series has the word Home.
Yeah, but do you think it's a good title? I mean, like I
have no problem with that.
They've really thought about it and they've really worked that angle into the film. Do you think that was for the better, for the worse?
To me, yeah, like no way home. It means like there's no way going back because what he's done is he's completely messed up. He's changed the timeline. Well,
his actions have affected other timelines, yeah.
Yes, and there's no way of getting back to what he had originally, what he should have had probably. Because Aunt May, like you said, Aunt May shouldn't have died. She wouldn't have died. Well, who knows? You don't know, do you?
I mean, this is the thing, though, isn't it? It's not should have, should not have. By bringing in Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, they all talk about the things that are different in each of their universes, and it kind of shows that it is showing off the whole variant thing, isn't it? Like we saw in the Loki TV series where you got one version of Loki who looks like our Loki. There's another version of Loki that looks like our Loki, but, ran as president, Crocodile Loki, Kid Loki, and this is just more on that. So we've got the same story told slightly differently. So in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, we had that iconic line, but I don't think we had it in... Did Andrew Garfield have that line in it? Great power comes great responsibility.
No, I don't think
they
so.
did. I think they danced around it, didn't they?
But they said it in this film. I think Aunt May said it.
Yeah, I feel like it was. I feel like it was danced around, and then and obviously with Tom Holland, there was no Uncle Ben to begin with. So this version of Aunt May says
Uncle Ben was Tony Stark, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. And actually, no, and yeah, you're not wrong, because he does say something in Homecoming, doesn't he?
Yeah, he says something.
He doesn't say that exact line, but his one was if you're nothing with the suit, then you're nothing without the suit. And there's that whole conversation, I think, was the Uncle Ben responsibility, power, like that was the stand-in, really, wasn't it? But then Aunt May, at the end of her time in this film, she kind of she says it. I think between the two of them, they say it or something like that. Those words come out, just not necessarily in the order you want them. I feel like they were sort of coming out in that order, and at the very last second, the actual line changed.
Yeah.
It was like it was teasing the fans, but then actually didn't say the exact same thing that they were expecting.
I think it was very similar to what the Tobey Maguire Uncle Ben said.
So before going into the film, how much had you watched the trailers? Like, had you seen...
I tried to not spoil myself, but you just can't avoid it, can you? Like, you go on YouTube and...
Yeah, I mean, I think I watched the first trailer.
Yeah. Or
at least the first trailer that had Doc Ock and the Goblin and the hints that they were coming back, but I didn't watch any more. Like I settled to watch the first one, but nothing else. So I knew who to expect, but I didn't know everything else that was going on as well.
I think the problem is like if you watch one video, like Spider-Man video, then YouTube like has the algorithms like, oh, you want more of this? You want more? And you're like, no, I don't, please. And then when you see it, like you see like people uploading their titles like, oh, Tobey Maguire's entrance, and you're like, oh, okay.
You have to be really careful because it's the things that they put in the thumbnails or the video title. They give things away. They can give things away by inference. You might see something and you don't expect it.
Yeah, I did watch, I thought it was really funny. This was even before the film got released, so no one knew what was going on, like if Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were going to be in it. And I think Andrew Garfield's just come out recently with a film called Tika-Toka. It's on Netflix. But these guys were interviewing him and they were like, oh, we had a rumour that you're going to be in the next Spider-Man film. And he's like, no, I'm not in it, unfortunately. I would love to do it, and I've heard good things about such and such, the directing and the producers and stuff, but unfortunately, I was just so busy. And then I actually really believed him.
I think I heard about that as well, and I think he had I think he said something along the lines of, oh, if Tobey Maguire, I'm really upset because Tobey Maguire got the invite but I didn't, or something like that.
Yeah, I think he said that, yeah.
And he really sort of like played, made it look like he really, he was upset that he didn't get it, things like that. So
yeah, I watched that. I was like, oh, he's not in it. Oh, all right. And then that was the one I was kind of like, oh, when he did turn up. I knew Tobey Maguire was in it, but I didn't know Andrew Garfield. But he was like the first one to turn up that you're like, oh, you're in it.
So had you, the previous films, the Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, have you seen them all?
Yes.
You have. Did you like them?
I loved the Tobey Maguire films. Andrew Garfield, I liked the first Amazing Spider-Man, but the second one was a bit poor.
Yeah, same. I watched the Tobey Maguire ones like back when they came out. So, and I think I've seen the first one like a few times. It was one of those films that kind of I saw quite often and kind of just got bored of, got sick of. But then, having not seen it, Jen and I decided. I think since Christmas, we watched them. We watched all 5 films over a few weeks. I think we watched Homecoming as well. We couldn't do Far From Home because we didn't have access to that without paying for it. So actually we watched all 6 films before watching this.
It was on that's the thing is, I watched
it was on Netflix. I watched it in January, I watched it around Christmas and then it went off. So when we came to watch it recently,
it was Far From... Was that the one before this new one?
Yeah, number 2. Yep. So when we came to watch it, it was gone again.
That was on it was on Netflix for...
Yeah, it was, but it has since gone.
And it went on BBC iPlayer actually. Because I watched it on BBC iPlayer at Christmas time.
I'm not going to look on BBC iPlayer for films.
That's how because I didn't watch. I had Homecoming when I bought my 4K TV. They were like, oh, you can buy a digital version of a film. So I decided, okay, Spider-Man Homecoming. And it was sitting on there for like years, and then I decided at Christmas time, I was like, oh, the new Spider-Man's coming out, I might as well try and catch up, because I'd not seen any of it. So I watched that, and then I watched Far From Home on BBC iPlayer at Christmas time. I think the Far From Home was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean,
I enjoyed that one, but the Homecoming was terrible.
It's difficult though. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 I think they had the same problem where there were just too many villains.
You could say that like this one though, couldn't you? Like this new film. There's so many villains.
Yeah, you absolutely could, but
I think in this film it gets more fleshed out than Spider-Man 3.
I think the thing is, the criticisms in Spider-Man 3, I think, were valid, where there was a story in the film, and then they were like, "Oh, you need to include Venom and
Sandman."
Well, I feel like Sandman. How many villains were there in Spider-Man 3? There was Venom, Sandman, and Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
I feel like Sandman was the original villain planned by Sammy Raimi or whoever wrote it. I think that was the original villain that was supposed to be there, but then the studio said, "Oh, you need to bring in Venom because we want Venom in the universe, and you need to bring back Harry Osborn because Harry, isn't it? You need to bring back Harry Osborn because we need to finish that arc." The Amazing Spider-Man 2 kind of had a little bit of a similar thing where it's like, it would have been a good film if they didn't have the Green Goblin.
Yeah, could you imagine if that Green Goblin guy turned up in this film instead of Willem Dafoe?
I
know. That would have been terrible.
Because it was terrible. The actor who played Harry was fine when he played Harry, but when he turned into Goblin, it was just like, you know what? It's not really gelling. It kind of felt like the Incredible Hulk more than it felt like Spider-Man. And then he kind of had like 2 minutes of screen time just before the film ended. So, yeah, I don't think Green Goblin was good at all in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I feel like having those two films exist made the directors of this film... Who directed this film? I don't know that person, actually. Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's a female. Is it a female? No, it's not. Who was that? Well, that was a producer. Yeah, I don't know what. We were watching one on the behind the scenes, and I thought the one of the directors was a female, but that's not who Lin-Manuel Miranda is. Basically, having hindsight of Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and also having the experience of making the Avengers films, if they couldn't have made this many characters work in a Marvel film, then, you know, the previous 23 films of Marvel are basically a failure, because that's basically what Marvel do. They're very good at doing this whole many character thing. Like, they are really good at it.
Yeah, that's so.
It would have been surprising and tragic and hilarious if for a third time they'd it up. I think it was a good film. I think they managed to not do it. Do you think it worked?
I think the most frustrating part was the first 20 minutes of the film.
What were the first 20 minutes?
Finding out that Peter Parker, Spider-Man was Peter Parker, and him dealing with the fact that I'm okay with that, but like I was watching it with my partner, and she was getting a bit like, oh, this is really kiddish, like teenagers. I was just like, Doctor Strange is going to come in soon. You know, Doctor Strange is going to come in. It's like, wait till, because she likes Doctor Strange, but like when Doctor Strange appeared, then it's like you started taking a bit more notice of the story and stuff.
That is a thing though about Spider-Man films. Not the first one, because he was so flipping old, but the Tom Holland ones really, like the first one, Homecoming, it's about prom, and it's like watching that, like I was 28, 29 when I watched it, and I'm like, just high school romances. I have zero interest in it now, like, and it's weird watching it now through the eyes of an adult.
Yeah, and but you're not, it's not.
Don't say it's not
you're
for
not the
me.
demographic.
It is for me.
It's not.
No, it is though. You know, it's not an actual teen movie, but it just has those elements. And you had a bit of it in Homecoming. We had a lot of it in Homecoming. You had a bit of it in Far From Home, and then you had that bit in the beginning.
I didn't mind that in Far From Home, like when they're on the plane and they want to sit together and all that. I was thinking, oh, that reminds me of me. But yeah. You know, as a teenager and stuff, you kind of have like, it's kind of funny seeing these characters go through that kind of stuff.
You've got to relate to the teenage market.
Yeah, but that's the thing. This film has to relate to that and keep going with that, and then also relate to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, in which they did. I absolutely loved it when Willem Dafoe showed up
Yeah, we basically adored him. He is just, like, it doesn't need to be said, but he is so fantastically good. And that scene in the alleyway with him and the mask was just incredible. And it was brilliant to see him like that again.
I liked how they twisted it. Like, you feel sorry for him. He's totally confused. He's in a different reality and he doesn't know what's going on. And he looks like a homeless guy. They're in a homeless shelter and he actually looks like... And then she's like, you can't send him to his death. He's going to go back and he's going to die. You have to do something. But then it all turns nasty, and then that's when it gets really good.
Well, what do you think? Do you think he was genuine in those moments?
I think he was.
Do you think he was actually? Do you think he was genuinely battling, and do you think he lost a battle, or do you think he was conniving, scheming the whole time?
I think he was trying to battle it. But that's the thing, like, if you've seen the Tobey Maguire ones recently, in the first film, when before he dies, like, he starts like speaking to Peter, and he seems like
this is the thing.
Natural,
he was remorseful. Yeah, I mean, if you take it at face value, then we have got William Dafoe moments after he got stabbed by that thing with Tobey Maguire. So he should theoretically be in that mindset, really. And it's just a case of he's losing it because, I don't know, he's in another dimension, so his brain's working a bit differently. And we know electricity works differently in different universes because, what's his name? Electro?
Oh, yeah.
Electro Boom?
Yeah, Electron.
Like he said, the power felt different in that universe. It was more powerful. And obviously, there's electricity in the brains and all the neurons firing. So it's like Norman Osborn's, his brain might be working differently, and the Goblin is winning over him, even though he was winning in the Tobey Maguire universe.
But I feel like that's what the film needed. Like, it needed a death. It needed someone to say, right, this, you're gonna... And it's just the way he was, like, laughing, giggling, like, taking the piss out of him. It's like, I killed you, fucker. I thought that was great. I just loved it. I was like, I was on the edge of my seat at that point, like, just seeing William Dafoe. That's what I wanted from this film, and it gave it to me.
It's all the little ways that he got in the way. So, like, jumping right to the end fight where Doctor Strange is back in, and that time cube or the spell cube or whatever he's got is kind of flying around everywhere, and then suddenly the Green Goblin comes in, and then one of his grenades is inside it, and it's like, oh, and then all blows up and everything. Yeah, it's just the way he kind of works his way into all these little bits, and he's so strong as well. So when he had that fight with Tom Holland Spider-Man, it was so weird seeing someone who's like 14, 15, he must be like 15, 16 at this point, and he's just laying into this guy, this old man essentially, and he's just taking it. And he's not just taking it, he's giving it back. He's throwing Spider-Man through the floor, through the walls,
but
through the balcony.
He's not just an old man.
I know, but he doesn't. Because he doesn't look different.
No. Well, I was going to say, because he's had the injections
in the Amazing Spider-Man. The Green Goblin looked horrific. He looked like the Grinch. It was just weird. But William Dafoe looks like William Dafoe when he hasn't got the suit on, and he didn't have the suit on during that fight. I don't think. I think he was just in his green hoodie and everything, and he just looked really weird.
I don't know if they maybe like de-aged him. I don't know. I heard that some people got de-aged.
Yeah, I without looking it up, I would imagine that I think he may have been de-aged for some... I don't know. Because he had the parts where I think he would have been de-aged, he'd be wearing a mask anyway. Like, if I was the director, I would slightly de-age him. Not massively, but I would slightly de-age him during the bits where he is the Goblin, where he's fighting and everything. But during the bits where he is Norman Osborn, I would leave him as he is, and have that sort of that very subtle change that, a lot of people might not notice, but like the super nerds might. But because obviously he usually wears a mask as the Goblin, you probably wouldn't need to do that.
It would have been it would have been cool as well if James Franco turned up as well as the Green Goblin.
Yeah, but he'd have been on his side though, because they made up at the end of Spider-Man 3. Genuinely, I would love a film. I would love a spin-off TV show where Tobey Maguire and James Franco were going off saving New York City from XYZ. I know he died at the end of that film, but, just spin it off so he didn't die and have them being super friends together.
What, Tobey Maguire?
No, James Franco. He died at the end of Spider-Man 3.
Oh yeah.
Because we were like genuinely, we were upset when he died.
Yeah, he realizes that not to become like his dad.
So Google says William Dafoe was digitally de-aged for No Way Home.
Yeah, I thought so. There's got to be in it. Some of the scenes he's got are probably the action scenes.
But he did a lot of the stunts himself. That's what Jen found out online. And seeing some of the seeing some of the behind the scenes footage as well. Like he was in those fights, like particularly in the flat and everything, with like Tom Holland on a rig above him, like punch him in the face. And then he's because there was that. Yeah, Tom Holland was talking about it, where he's basically on the Goblin's chest and he's punching him in the face, and he's punched him like 3 or 4 times, and then the Goblin takes the punches and he looks up and he just got that grin in his face and he just lets out that laugh.
Yeah.
And Tom said when Dafoe did that, he had chills. And you can see it in the behind-the-scenes footage, like how it affected Tom Holland. It was, I fully believe the only reason they did this multi-universe Spider-Man was just to get William Dafoe back in as the Green Goblin again.
Wow, Tobey Maguire.
No. I think it's. I know there's been those memes about Tobey Maguire in the MCU, but I think it was all to get William Dafoe back in. What about what's his face, Doc Ock?
It was kind of a letdown, wasn't it?
Was it? How so?
Yeah, he was. Well, in terms of like his character, first he was just wasn't he was bad.
He was bad, and they replaced his chip.
Then and then they replaced his chip, and then he turned good. And then you think he's gonna go bad again, but then he ends up being good. Now is his opportunity to be bad, but then it's like, oh, you're still gonna be good. And
no, I didn't think he was gonna. I don't want to be like, oh, I didn't think he was gonna turn bad. But in the balance, there was already 3 people turning bad. You got Sandman. I was sad that Sandman turned bad because he had such a good redemption. Not a good redemption, but he had a redemption at the end of Tobey's films. But with him, Electro Boom, that's not his name, I'm sorry.
Electron.
Electro Boom's a YouTuber. So there was Sandman, Electron, and the Green Goblin who had turned bad. Having Doc Ock on that side would have been too much. I know there's 3 Spider-Men and there's the rest of the team and Doctor Strange and everything, but that would almost have been too much for them to overcome. So having Doc Ock on the good team, I think was quite important for balance. For balance of power, for balance of screen time and all of that. So, and that's the thing as well. He was never a bad person, ever, not once. Norman Osborn, he was a greedy scientist who was at the end of his tether because the army were about to take off his contracts and everything. He was greedy, he was pushing boundaries that he shouldn't have been pushing for personal gain. Doc Ock, yeah, he was pushing boundaries. He didn't want to stop things when they turned bad, but he wasn't doing it for malicious intent. He was trying to create free, unlimited power. He was being generally a good person, and it was only when the chips were fried that he was bad. But once he was a good person, he was a good person because he's not a bad person. He's a scientist. He's a good scientist. So that's why I didn't expect him to turn again. We were worried that his chip would get fried. There was at one point in the movie we thought it might happen, but it didn't, which was good. And we didn't expect him to turn, even when he kind of appeared at the end and helped with the Goblin and everything. His character arc, I think, was quite good. It basically ended the way he arrived into the universe before the end of Spider-Man 2.
Do you agree with what Tom Holland Spider-Man did in terms of knowing that if you let these people go back to their multiverse that they will probably die? So instead he decided, okay, we're going to try and make use of them or try and change the fact that they don't die in their universe.
It was naive. It was definitely naive.
Even after, what's his face? What's the magic guy? What's he called?
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange said, "Oh no, don't do this. You do this, we're going to end up causing like a catastrophe, and everything's going to blow up."
The thing is, right? Everyone has a valid point, pretty much, but you don't know how. Like, you don't know these people. You don't know how they're going to turn out. Like, you don't know how predictable or unpredictable these people are going to be. Even Spider-Man himself, Doctor Strange, like, he's fought many things in the past. In his mind, he's like, I can either fight these people if they turn bad, or I can just send them back home and it's not my problem. Because it's not his problem when it's not in his universe. He's not yet really an inter-universe dimensional being. He's not like the TVA or the Overseer from the What If series.
That's a good point. Imagine if they turned up like saying, you guys are in the wrong That would have been cool. That would have been awesome.
Well, to be fair though, I don't know. Yeah, why would they have turned up?
Yeah, they would have. They said, "Oh, look, you're in the wrong."
Well, they didn't turn up for the Avengers in Endgame. You know, why not there? Why now? Or why not now? And then they could have turned up. Like they really messed things. Well, you know why they didn't turn up? It's because they don't exist anymore. To be honest, also. The reason this film happened was because the TVA had broken up, and that guy who was holding it all together, he's failed. He's no longer holding everything together. So when the spell broke, everything that had splintered at the end of Loki, they were able to bleed through, whereas if it hadn't broken to begin with, even if the spell had failed, you wouldn't have had all these people bleeding through. So that's kind of how it kind of connects through. You don't need to know that to have seen the film. Like, I certainly wasn't thinking about it during the film, but now you think back to it and you're like, oh yeah, like obviously the TVA should have come in. Oh wait, but the TVA don't exist. Oh, if the TVA hadn't been disbanded and that guy who held everything together, I can't even remember his name now, but if he hadn't been stabbed by Mrs. Loki, then a lot of this film it would have played out differently than the way it did.
Yeah, let me ask you about the actual main plot of the Tom Holland character, like losing losing his friends, pretty much. The overarching feeling plot is that the thing is that you do have these situations in life where you say something to someone, but then that person just reacts straight away, and you're like, well, wait a minute, just hold on a sec. And then, because he was talking to Doctor Strange about having people forget he was Spider-Man, and he's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And he's like, oh, no, wait, what about... So that's quite funny. And then he had to just sacrifice and say, okay, yeah, everyone's got to literally just forget about not just Spider-Man, but just forget me. And...
Well, I mean, you know, talking about Iron Man earlier, this is his sacrifice.
Well, yeah, I think because he knows that he's messed up, the only way around this is to do what Doctor Strange was suggesting. He's like, well, if you do this, then it's the only way that it could work. And he was like, because Doctor Strange didn't really want to do it, he wanted to try something else. And he's just like, oh, okay, no, just do it. And he's like, okay.
What do you think about his friends? About MJ, Ned? Ned's quite important. He's probably going to be in... Where do you think he's going to pop up next?
I don't know.
I don't think he'll be in Doctor Strange. I wonder if he might pop up with Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings.
Yeah, maybe.
In the second one of those. Or maybe one of the other TV series. That's like WandaVision or...
Did you get this? Did you get subtitle? You know when they're in... I think in... someone's house. They're in someone's house and they're talking to like...
Oh, at his nan's house?
Yeah. Did you get like subtitles?
We had no subtitles.
Because I was like...
No, because
Yeah, he relayed what she was saying.
Yeah, because I think normally in a film you would have burned in subtitles at that point. But because Ned was... I think that was part of the joke, is that no one knew what she was saying until Ned relayed it.
I did.
And because Ned relayed it... Well, because you had fell off the back of a truck copy, didn't you?
No. Mavi, she's Filipino, so she knew what she was saying. I was like, right. What's she saying? She's like, oh, she's saying that he needs to get the cobweb out of me. And then he said it. And then he said it on the TV. I'm like, oh, because the guy that plays Ned is he's American, but he's like his family are Filipino apparently.
Yeah.
So
you know he's bald.
Was he?
He's bald. He is Lex Luthor bald.
Oh really?
Hang
Why
on.
is that?
I'll show. Do you know his name is? I'll send you a picture in a sec. Ned Spider-Man.
Do they just he wears a wig then? I suppose.
I guess so.
Why is that? Why is he bald? Why has he got...
Well, maybe he's bald. He's just bald. People are bald.
Where are you sending that? Send me on the Zoom.
It's just a Google link, so there's going to be quite a few there. But he's in the red shirt. You can't miss him.
Oh yeah.
When I that picture's actually from a video shoot. There's a lot of puppies there. People, if you're listening, it's the interview where the three of them went to this photo shoot place, and there was all those puppies, and they were interviewing, and what's his face was like the chosen one with the little white dog. You know the one I mean. Yeah. He's Lex Luthor bald, but I didn't recognise him without his hair in that interview. I don't even think I recognised Zendaya in that either, because her hair is quite different there than it is in the films.
Isn't she and Tom Holland, and they going?
Yeah, they're a thing together now.
Oh, that's awkward.
No, is it? Is it more awkward than the fact that he's the lead in Uncharted?
Yeah, I've not seen that.
Yeah, I'm not
too fast.
I heard about it and I saw the trailer and I thought, I don't want to agree with everyone, but it's really difficult to not see it.
What's that?
That he's too young for that course.
Oh, I think I heard the story is like it's a younger. It's him as a younger man. The thing I don't get is Mark Wahlberg playing what's his name? Is it Scully? I can't remember his name. The old,
I don't know the universe well enough.
There's an old guy that he's pretty much like his dad, but he's not actually his dad. But he treats him.
Yeah. Father figure type.
Yeah,
thing.
and he like Mark Wahlberg's like I don't see him as playing that character. But anyway,
it's just he is so young. He
you
looks
think he's young.
so young.
You think he's young, but he's not. He's like 25, 26.
He's like I know he's 25, but he just has baby face, doesn't he? That's the thing.
Oh yeah, he has a baby face. Yeah, this guy. Yeah, that's the appeal. It's like I was like,
but I'm looking at this picture, and he's in a white t-shirt, and it's a wet t-shirt contest. He is ripped, absolutely ripped. So I'm not surprised they chose him. And for all the money he probably brought in on that film.
Well, I was looking when watching the Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield, you could still argue could play Spider-Man. Like he could, like if there was no Tom Holland, that he could still do these films. He doesn't look that old.
No, again, like he's 38.
But he looks 30.
When we watched it, he has a little bit of a baby face going on as well. And no, you're right. He doesn't look that old.
When he was doing the Amazing Spider-Man, he looked younger, a lot younger. But now he probably looks like in his like early 30s, late 20s. Like you could say he's an older Spider-Man, but he could still do the part like playing the main Spider-Man. But Tobey Maguire, his voice seemed. Did you notice his voice was a little bit different?
It was a bit more vocal fry-y.
It was a bit more like
hello.
Yeah.
I do you know what's really funny when he appeared? I was like, there's what's his name? Who's the most famous actor of all time? Male. Tom Hanks, that's the one.
Tom Hanks. Oh god.
When Tobey Maguire walked in, I said, "There's Tom Hanks," because he just looks like Tom Hanks.
What? No.
Do you not think he's got he's got the forehead? I think.
It looks nothing like him. The thing is, I'm so used to these. You see all the memes of Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
That's the
But
problem.
he doesn't look like that anymore.
No, it doesn't look like that. So when you're like, oh, who's this guy? Well, looks a bit different, but it is him. But the thing is, he didn't have the costume on either. He just had like some normal clothes. And he's like, where's your costume? And he's like, oh yeah, I've got it. Don't worry.
No, but we did have it on. He was just under his clothes. But no. The ears and the forehead just looked like Tom Hanks, I thought. So what did you think about what did you think about having all three Spider-Men in the same film?
Yeah, it was good. I think there was an anticipation for it, and there was like probably an expectation of this story to happen. And I can't say it was bad. All I can say it was good to see these characters come back, and but I don't think we would probably have something like this again. I think that's my honest opinion.
We the biggest problem we had was differentiating them, both in terms of like during the fight scenes, like which Spider-Man are we looking at the moment, because their suits.
Yeah.
Tom Holland's one obviously looks a little bit different, but Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's were very similar. Like Andrew Garfield is slightly more blue, and Tobey Maguire has a more pronounced spider. But if you're not looking, if the angle's not there, it was quite hard to tell. And because they're all Peter and they're all Peter Parker, it's really difficult.
That's the funny thing. They were like Peter, and
they had some really good scenes. Like I said with the where's your suit? Have you got your suit? And then the whole web slinging that comes out of your arm.
Yeah, that's the thing. It looks like
wait, what? You don't make your own? I'm surprised though. I'm surprised Tom Holland's Spider-Man didn't come back with something like, yeah, but I got like shocking, and I've got all the trick ones from Tony Stark's technology.
I think that follows the comic book one, him actually making it. I don't think it comes naturally.
Yeah, it does. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is basically the only one canonically that makes his own spider fluid. But the Spider-Man 2 wouldn't have happened without it being a part of him, because half of that film was about him having a bit of a mental depression and not being able to sling the web, isn't it? Or was that Spider-Man 3?
Spider-Man 2, yeah, he has.
It was one of them.
That's what I thought this film would do as well with Tom Holland. Everyone's against him. So that news reporter guy, he's in the original Spider-Man films, the Tobey Maguire films.
J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah. So
yes,
but he was, for me, I don't know, like his character in this film was just not not as good as the original Tobey Maguire. He was just so annoying. It was just like, oh, I've got you now. And you're like, okay.
No, he played the character well, though. Like, that's...
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not saying...
You're not supposed to like him, are
yeah,
you?
I'm saying for the actual story, and I'm not saying anything against the actor and his performance. And yeah, he was kind of annoying and a douchebag. But the actual story is...
But not even the story itself. Like, that is the character. Like, the character, like, his job is to... And I will, I'm not going to lie. Like there was one bit where he was talking in the middle of the film, and Tom Holland saw him on the big screen. I think it was just after the fight at the apartment. What he said was true. It's like wherever Spider-Man is, like danger will surely follow, or something along that lines. And it's like actually he has a real concern for New York City and the safety. It's a bit like Gotham and Batman. Would Gotham be as bad as it is without Batman? Does Batman just make the city worse by being there and being a trophy that bad guys can look at to try and overcome? And I don't think that's the case with Spider-Man, but that's the way J. Jonah Jameson sees it. We see it as Spider-Man has come to save the day, and it's great that he exists, because if he didn't exist, then the Green Goblin would have done what he would have done, Doc Ock would have failed and become megalomaniac, all these bad things would have happened, not because of Spider-Man, but from J. Jonah Jameson's perspective, it seems to be because of Spider-Man.
I don't know if it was because he just didn't know that those people were the reason. He was just interested in Spider-Man.
He's war profiteering because obviously he sells newspapers, he sells clicks online for being a news mongol. But I don't think all of it always was about the money. I think some of it was genuine concern for New York. And I think that was maybe more portrayed in this film than it was in Sam Raimi's film. He is a hard character to like, to defend, whatever. But have you seen that deleted scene where he puts on the Spider-Man suit in Spider-Man 3?
I have, many years ago. It was many years ago.
Yeah. So clearly, canonically, from that, he must have some admiration for Spider-Man. Maybe there's some jealousy there.
How is he in the Sam Raimi films and then he's in these films? I don't get it.
What do you mean? Who? What do you mean?
The news guy.
Oh, how did he get into these films without coming through the universe portal? Yeah. Yes, we did. We did wonder that.
What happened?
I don't know. I don't think they ever answered that one.
I mean, they're just like, oh, he was so good for the part. Just cast him and no one's really gonna...
That might be why he was put in the end of Spider-Man 2. It's a bit like when Apple announces that they're removing the headphone jack 7 months before the iPhone 7 came out, and they released it through leaks accidentally to kind of get everyone mad and upset about it and accepting of it when it actually comes out. Maybe that's what they were doing. They put him into the end of Spider-Man Far From Home so that everyone's like, oh yeah, we love J. Jonah Jameson's, and they accept that he's in the universe. So when he's in the film, you don't think about why he's there when he's there before everyone else who came from that same universe. I don't know, distraction tactic.
Yeah, the other way you can think of it is because you got the multiverse, like you got different Spider-Mans. Maybe that he's just the same guy in a different universe in this, like, but it's a little bit different. I was going to ask, did you like the fact about like it continuing the story from the previous film? Some of these films you're like, oh...
What do you mean from Far From Home?
Yeah, so like the first thing you see is Magneto being like, Peter Parker is trying to kill me, he's trying to destroy the bridge.
I don't think that was the strongest part of the film.
Oh, no. I just thought it was just quite cool.
I'm not even sure if it was good. I think it was so short-lived. The repercussions were gone almost, like they were around for like 10, 20 minutes, like you said. But then after, at the 21-minute mark, it's not a problem. Apart from conveniently when they needed it, when he calls J. Jonah Jameson from the Statue of Liberty. Like, it just wasn't... It wasn't prevalent throughout the film, so it just felt like the after the scene with Murdoch, it was like, oh, it's all over and done with. So I feel like it could almost have been a shorter scene to begin the film, and it wouldn't have been any worse. I wasn't too fond of that because I felt like maybe they made the film too long, but like it should have been more prevalent throughout the film. I think because it just wrapped up too quickly.
Well, the thing that I kind of like was like, this is just silly. Where he's trying to get into a college, and then his friends don't get into college because they're associated with him.
But that happens in real life, though.
I honestly thought that he got in, and maybe they didn't get in. I was like, oh, what is he hiding something here? But no, he didn't get in.
But I suppose all of it was the preamble to the whole film, wasn't it? With him meeting Doc.
Yeah, but the thing I didn't like is on the bridge, he tries to talk to the lady and say, "Oh, come on, give me a chance, give my friends."
Such a horrible scene. I hated that bit. That was, we were talking earlier about the teen thing, the teenage films. That was probably the height of it. The bit which just like secondhand cringe embarrassment on behalf. It's like, what are you doing?
He's got a suit on, and then he's like, "Please, please, please," and then she's like, "No, no, no," and then he saves everyone. And he's like, "You know what? I think you're worth it now. I really do. I think I'm gonna talk to my superiors, and we're gonna get you a placement." That shows the audience is like, no, you can't get there on good merit. You have to do something amazing like that to then get into a good college.
Well, I mean, I don't know. They would have gotten there on good merit, but I mean, defamation, association, like it's a real thing. Like it happens.
Oh yeah,
in the real
definitely,
life. So.
Definitely. But it's just the way he gets back, like tries to get it back, and you're like, oh, come on.
So, what do you think is next?
Well, the next Doctor Strange film. Have you seen the trailer?
Yes, we have seen the trailer. We did see it.
You know who's directing?
Sam Raimi?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I was just joking.
Yeah, Sam Raimi.
Oh, okay. Do you think Tom Holland's coming back? Do you think that's him over?
Nah, I don't. It's going to be
finished.
Separate.
I just mean in general, like, I don't know, Avengers 7.
Oh yeah, of course he'll be back. Why would he not be back? What, in another film in the future?
I feel like, is that not his arc done? Is finished?
No, of course not. They will somehow bring in. Well, he's still Spider-Man. Like he's not forgotten that he's not Spider-Man, but everyone else has. But then,
including the Avengers, like Doctor Strange doesn't know who he is. Happy doesn't remember who he is. Whoever's still left at the Avengers complex, they don't remember who he is.
Well, the next thing would be he would hook up with Loki. Then that would be the next thing for him.
Possibly. I mean, obviously, with the Spider and the multiverse, there's precedent for Spider-Man being multi-dimensional, isn't there? So could be. So everyone forgot who Spider-Man is, but what about things that are written down? What about all the documents at Avengers? Were they altered? The hard drives, data on the hard drives, was that changed?
I can't, mate. You're going into deep.
Am I asking a question that shouldn't be asked?
Yeah, just keep quiet,
it.
please. Mr. Disney is watching, and he is not happy.
All right, fair enough. Have you seen the MCU Venom films?
No. Well, I've seen the.
Are you interested?
We watched the first one. One of the worst films I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, really? Okay.
one of the worst. We were.
Because obviously he was in the post-credit scene.
Yeah, I noticed that. The thing is, I do want to give the sequel a try, but I said to Mavi, like, should we try and watch it? But she's like, absolutely no. Even she's like, it's like a 2 out of 10. What did you watch Venom, the film?
No, I've not seen Venom. I hadn't really been interested in it.
But that seems like they were indicating that Venom's going to get involved somehow.
So Venom stayed behind even though Eddie Brock went back to his universe.
But that doesn't make any sense. Like what he says.
How was Eddie Brock in the first one? Was Eddie Brock in the first one or not?
No, he only appeared in the third film.
No, in the first Venom film.
Oh, no, I don't know. No, it's just he. I can't remember how he becomes Venom, but Tom Hardy is Venom, and he starts hearing voices. And
so that bar in that post-credit scene, I've seen that before. Do you know where I've seen that before?
X-Men.
I've not seen X-Men. Well, I've seen the first X-Men film, but I don't.
Is it not in like X-Men First Class or something?
I've not seen that, so I've not seen it there.
Like Wolverine is sitting there.
I'm sure I've seen that bar in another film somewhere.
I think it's like in Wolverine. Wolverine is sitting at a bar like that.
Yeah, but I've not seen X-Men. I've not seen any X-Men films.
No X-Men. Oh, okay. Doesn't he say that? I was like, I've heard of the Spider-Man in New York. Maybe I should go down there. But I thought everyone forgot that Spider-Man existed. So how has he heard that Spider-Man is in New York? No.
Right, so you're falling into the same trap as me. They haven't forgotten that Spider-Man exists. They have Spigotten. They have
Spigotten.
They have forgotten his identity, so they don't know that
that's true.
Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but they do still know who Spider-Man is.
There you go. So technically, it's kind of weird then, because like you were saying earlier about the Avengers not knowing.
Well, they know who Spider-Man is, but they don't know it's Peter Parker. They haven't got his home address anymore.
The idea is like they don't know at all who Spider-Man is at all. Like,
no, I don't think that's it. Because that because there's the JJJ scene at the end where he talks about Spider-Man and he explicitly says no one knows who this menace is. Like, they know Spider-Man, they just no longer know who he is.
The Avengers should know that it's Peter Parker.
I mean, to be honest, JJJ's news network should know, because it should be in their records. You know, they just play back that video from 2 weeks ago.
It won't be there though, because it will be erased.
I don't think that's what happened. I do not think that's what the spell did.
We'll have to wait and see. But when you start doing stuff like that, it brings up like multiple discussions where it's like, what did that actually do? It's like time travel, stuff like that.
This was the first Tom Holland Spider-Man to have a funeral. It's especially noticeable if you watch them all one after the other, but there are so many funerals in the Spider-Man films. Even in the Miles Morales and the video games, there's so many funerals, and they're all... Because they're New York funerals, they're a different type of funeral than like you or I may have been to. There's something that, like, slightly different about them. But when you see
American,
no, not that they're American, but because they're specifically in New York, because New York is just such a it is the place that it is. When you see one, you're like, oh yeah, this is a funeral. Most other funerals I've seen in America are actually vastly different from a New York funeral even. But I guess it was at the ending of this film or something. Yeah, it just reminded me that A, Spider-Man loves funerals, and B, this is the first out of the 3 films to actually have one.
I think the last thing to talk about is that this film is the first $1 billion movie post COVID.
Oh, it did well then.
Oh yeah. Well, I think the hype and the anticipation, like everyone.
God, it almost hit 2.
Oh really? Gee, how much did it make?
1.89 billion.
1.89. So that's like the second highest.
Oh, hang on. Well, it says box office, but that might not be box office.
That might have been Titanic, because like Titanic's like 1.7. I think the record is Avatar 2.3.
I mean, it's 6th highest grossing.
Oh, okay. But it made a lot of money. It made a lot of money.
Yeah, they made a lot of money.
Even like with COVID going around. So if COVID wasn't around, they probably would have broke.
I don't know. I wonder if a lot of tension was broke with No Way Home. Like, a lot of people went to see it because they could, because it was timed appropriately with all restrictions lifting and the vaccine and everything.
I don't know. At the time,
in a normal timescale without COVID, people might have gone to see James Bond in the summer, because, you know, like me and my wife, we see like one film a year, one film every 2 years. So it's like, oh, we'll go see this film in the cinema, but we'll see this film when it's on DVD. So all these people who only go once or twice every year or every 2 years, they might be 2 or 3 years out of sync in terms of like cinema going, and they're like, oh, I'm going to go see No Way Home. Like, do you know, the last film I saw in the cinema was Far From Home on release day. Yeah. I've not been to the cinema since. We didn't see this in the cinema. We saw it at home. But, you know, we would have been in that situation of, you know, going 2.5, almost 3 years of not being at the cinema. So I feel like there is I have no way of backing up this, probably. I don't know if the figure's going to ever come out, but I reckon there is a reasonable percentage of people who went to see the film who wouldn't have seen it if COVID had never happened, because they'd have gone to see another film. You know, they'll either have seen James Bond, or they're waiting for the next Harry Potter universe film to come out because that's just around the corner, and they skip this one, you know, especially as it's the third one and it's just another MCU film. Like,
it's not though, is it?
No, I know, but it's the 26th film or something like that. People have seen a lot of MCU films. It's like, well, I could just watch that at home and go see a James Bond, because James Bond films only come around every 6-7 years. Not everyone sees every film in the cinema.
I think for me, like pre-release of this film, you just saw online like everyone's talking about it. There were even people like debugging the trailer.
Yeah, I mean the analysis on the trailer, on all of the pre-release footage, has been insane. Like,
they were like, oh, they obviously taken something out here on this scene, because you see this that I think it was Sandman getting hit, but there was nothing actually hitting him, so they digitally like took out one of the Spider-Mans.
Yeah, but I mean, you see, that's because they don't want to spoil things, and it's
but there's people online like saying, oh look, they've digitally took this out, there must be something they're hiding here. It must be a Spider-Man.
So I mean, I've just recently finished playing Horizon Forbidden West, and after I finished it, I went back and watched the one of the first trailers, and there was just small details in there, and you're like, I can see they framed that shot so you can't see background characters. Oh look, they've used gameplay mechanics from the first game so as not to spoil them in the second game. So like various like HUDs, for instance, they look and worked differently in the second game, but in the trailer, which they released about a year ago, they used the interface from the first game because they didn't want to spoil it. And that's just, I think that's good, because there are people who might see the trailer. They're forced to see the trailer because they're watching another film in the cinema, and you don't want to completely ruin it for them. The type of analysis that I like are, so there's one guy, the Canadian lad, he really knows the comic books. So when he goes in and he analyzes the trailer or the film or whatever, he's looking at it and he's pulling up and he said, that car number plate is reference to this comic book, which the story is relevant to the film you're watching. Because actually, if you know your stuff, all the number plates that are clearly visible are comic book references. They just seem to be. That's one of the sort of like the easiest place for Easter eggs and references for comics and everything. And there are other things as well. So those are quite good because they're kind of like, they're bringing in lore, universal stuff, as opposed to, is Andrew Garfield actually in this film or not? That kind of stuff. So that's more interesting, I think.
But what I was trying to say is, like, you see some of the videos of that and there's like millions and millions of viewers. The anticipation for this film, like what I saw, was just through the roof. And I wasn't surprised that they made their money. And the money they made, just phenomenal. But yeah, it was a good film. Not the best Spider-Man film.
So what's the best? Number one?
Nah, it's got to be Spider-Man 2, isn't it? Then followed by number 1 and then number 3. And then Amazing... Well, the thing is, Homecoming was probably the worst for me.
Yeah, I don't enjoy watching that film. It's important to watch it, but I don't enjoy it. I know they get crapped on quite a bit, but I like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I like the characterization. I think the stories were a bit underwhelming, maybe, but I liked the way he played it. I liked and there's that one scene we didn't mention where he saves MJ when she's falling. He saves her in the same way he failed to save Gwen Stacy at the end of his film. And Gwen Stacy dies. You know how she dies.
She falls
through the clock tower or wherever they are, and he catches her, but it was too late and her head cracked off the floor, and that was a heartbreaking film to watch. And I would also say it is different watching a film when you are married and in your 30s than when you're going in and out of relationships as a 18, 16, 14, when you're a teenager. Films hit you differently, and you might know this from, becoming a parent and rewatching films that you watched as a child. You're like, I'm on the side of the parent, or, it just hits differently, scenes hit differently.
Yeah, of course, yeah, you have that feeling, yeah.
And then when he saved MJ, he caught her in exactly the same way, pulled her up, landed, and as he put her down, very similar to William Dafoe, how he changed on a dime between the Goblin and Norman, Andrew Garfield just had that moment where he basically remembered and mourned for Gwen Stacy, but was glad and happy and full of relief that he was able to save someone. And that was such a moving scene, and I almost feel sorry for all the people who haven't seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because that was such a powerful scene, or such a powerful moment, and such a powerful reference to a previous film. Out of all the references to previous films, I think both me and my wife, we saw it instantly, and just we knew what it was referencing. We knew how he was feeling in that time. Like if someone, you got a 14-year-old kid watching this film, and this is their third Spider-Man film, they've not seen any of the previous films. They're like, why is he crying? He's just saved someone. Like, they're almost a petulant child or whatever. But it's like, no, there's so much more deeper meaning behind that. That was a really, really powerful moment, I think.
Well, the most disappointing thing for me was not having Rhino from The Amazing Spider-Man.
He was referenced. 2. He was referenced.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. No, they were talking about, I think it was when they were talking about going up into space or something like that, and Andrew was like, "Oh yeah, I fought a Russian rhino."
Did he though?
Yeah, he did. It was referenced. It was referenced in the film. It was either in
The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is that's the last scene, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
But does he actually defeat him?
Well, he must do. He must do, because he was around in this film.
You don't see it though.
No. I think the last scene of Andrew Garfield is him throwing a manhole cover at the Rhino or something. It's like one of those really actiony shots.
And if you're the guy that played the Rhino, you're like, what the hell? Because that was meant to be like The Amazing Spider-Man 3, then, like having Rhino, but that never happened. Disappointing. But that would have been cool if they actually brought Rhino, because the guy who plays Rhino is actually a good actor.
Yeah,
been
he's
loads of
just
films.
another man in a suit, though. We've already got that with the Iron Spider, and Iron Man's been around, Goblin's around. The one I would like to see is Iron Man versus Green Goblin, but I don't think that's going to happen. And just before we go, there's one final note from Tommy.
I only just found out that the Sandman scenes in Spider-Man No Way Home were not actually filmed for the film. They're actually originally filmed for the Spider-Man 3, but they were just deleted scenes. They were never used. So some of the scenes that were used in this new Spider-Man were actually intended for Spider-Man 3. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I don't know how they managed to pull that off then, so it's quite more intriguing to go back and watch it. Like some of the things he was saying, because he was saying about his daughter and stuff, wasn't he? Yeah, interesting. The scenes in which they were Sandman, they were shot back in 2007. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please feel free to like, comment or subscribe on YouTube, or leave us a rating or follow us on your podcast app of choice. Bye for now.